Hey everyone. So let's talk about Clash of Wills, what it is, how to tackle it, known bugs, and a general guide to this whole ranking event. So Clash of Wills is pretty much the, well, let's call it raid event Dark Visions style, because it takes a lot of the Dark Vision elements, the worst ones to be more specific, and puts them into a whole global exclusive event style of things. Now, we are using 10 raid orbs. You can refill these obviously with Lapis. I would suggest you do not do that. We do have 2 weeks of time. It's a single boss. And most likely you will be stuck at some point, like I am right now, where I'm just watching my ranking decay over time because more and more people are getting ahead of me, which is just a natural thing. The more EX levels you have, the better or your score is going to be. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So the topics I'm going to talk about today are rewards, modifiers, how they work, the morale actions, the morale influences, explaining the morale in the game, how the scoring works, tricks to improve your scoring, and I'll be also talking about known bugs. So let's check out the rewards. There's in total 3 types of rewards, or 4 even. So the first one is for basically just doing the event on its own. So from level 1 to level 99, you're getting all of these rewards in the game. They are guaranteed as long as you clear this whole event. Doesn't matter whether you're gonna score with an A or an S+, this is guaranteed. Now at the end of all things, there's also the ranking rewards depending on your final rank. Now obviously rank 1 gets the best things with a full 100 STMR Moogle, although an STMR Moog nowadays costs only 90 Super Trust Master tickets, but it's still 100. So this should look very familiar to you from the Dark Vision rewards. And the good thing about this is the Xenostone shards, which we will be talking about in just a minute. They don't decay that quickly, just like the Dark Matter in Dark Vision does. So 1,500 for the first 5 ranks, it's still 1.5k for the first 10 ranks, and from rank 11 onwards it starts to decay slowly. But as you can see, it is up to rank 100 where you still get 1.25k Xenostone shards. Now obviously the Super Trust Master tickets and the other tickets, they decay rather quickly. At rank 6 to 10 we are already down to 30 from 100, which is a steep fall off. So I don't know, if you're somewhere around here, it's probably worth it chasing that rank 1 to 5. Because at the end of the day, I feel like if you have 6 units with EX plus 3, you're gonna rank 1 anyway. And what we are absolutely going to see is about 50 to 100 rank 1s shared in 2 weeks' time, and everyone else getting the shorthand of the deal, going down to at least rank 100, or in this 100 to 500 bracket, which I am going to end up most likely, and that would mean only getting 1.1k Xenostone shards, and that making me having wait for the second iteration of morale battles or Clash of Wills to actually get the best reward, or the items from that I want. Okay, now let's check out the items that we can get. And to check these, those are 2 types, the Xeno stone shards and the obnoxious drops. Let me quickly do the expedition here before I forget that. So as you've seen, we're getting 2 types of items. It's the obnoxious shards, I'm going to call them obnoxious shards, and the Xenostone shards. And these can be used here. Now as you can see, I already used my Xenostone shards because there's nothing else to use them on. And what you can get is this Celestite Helm of Will, which has additional ability, passive ability that increases your morale for the party by 50 per turn at the beginning of the turn, which is rather neat. And this one you get up to 10, and from level 10 onwards you can pick different abilities, and these different abilities are, for example, 100% chain mod cap increase. So that is an ability that you have to use naturally, such as Savior of Souls Lightning's STMR is that same effect. It's an ability, materia, so to speak, that you have to use on a unit such as Near Vision Awakened Alina, for example. But with this helm, you got this integrated in the helm, which is a great addition. Another perk is that you could choose, for example, 300 static attack or magic, which is also a very, very powerful buff to the helm. Another one is 30% limit burst damage, which I feel like is kind of I wouldn't suggest that. And the other ones, they are, I don't even know what the other ones are, but they are not as good as the others. So the best two ones that you will kind of want are either the static attack or a magic buff or version of this, or the increased chain cap version of this. It's going to be a tough call. I am probably going for the static attack one, but I'm not quite sure whether this is the best case every time. It might highly depend on the unit that you're using it on. For example, if I were to use this on Near Vision Awakened Alina, I would probably use it in conjunction with the mod chain increase, so I have one materia slot opened up for her. Same would if Luna Freya, for example, could wear this. I would also probably use the chain mod cap increase, because Luna Freya has to use a materia to get her chain X cap to 6, and thus free up one more materia slot. So it is super highly dependent on the unit that you're going to use this helm on. And keep in mind, it's a helm and not everybody can wear a helm. Alright. The other one are the obnoxious drops, and we are getting 3.5k per run. So that is 7,000 on the second, 10,500 on the third, meaning we are getting at least 3 units, or a max of 3 units out of these Melia, SOS Lightning, Ferris, Luna Freya, FaZe, and Snow. You can get 2 of those, which is cool. That means if you have 0 of either unit, you can get their EX +1 right away, if you're picking both of them. Now, the best options here are the Evokers and Lightning, unless you want to use the chain mod cap increase on the crown regardless of what else is offered, then Lightning has no merit to you. But I would suggest that you should either pick Luna Freya or Ferris. For example, I may pick Ferris just to get closer to EX +3. But I also might just pick a Solitary Patron Snow to get him to EX +2. But it also depends, right? Because Snow is a trial unit most of the time, and there's only one trial remaining in the game as of now. And that one, it's so laughably easy that I probably won't end up using a tank at all. So yeah, for me personally, I'm going to use my shards or these obnoxious drops on Ferris twice, most likely, and maybe one on Melia for another, or for a STMR, because the STMR can be used on SPR damage dealer, so there is some merit to this. But we'll see. I haven't decided yet, as you can see. We'll have to see at the end of the day. Alright, so those are the rewards that we're getting. So let's get back to the event and check out what modifiers we can pick from. Okay, so this is the usual screen that you're looking at. We're getting to the ranking events later on at the end of the video, or rather at the end. So when you start, you are starting at level 1. And each time you defeat the boss with S plus ranking, you gain 10 levels. So on the next time, it's 11. If you still get it with an S plus ranking, it's 21, and continuing so on and so forth until you reach level 99. Now, level 99 is the highest possible score that you can get, but, and I will get to that later, there are some tricks how to improve your score with lower levels. But we're not that far yet into this guide. Let's check out the modifiers to choose from. Now, I wouldn't suggest to use modifiers on your way up to level 99. They make things unnecessarily hard, and you will get there eventually without modifiers anyway. So, me personally, I would have liked it if there were more modifiers to choose from. But I also understand from a game design point that there has to be a limit somehow, or we'd infinitely stack these and use the most useless ones for the boss actually. But anyway, these modifiers, they are entirely dependent on the number of EX levels that you have. So let's check out my party. This is my team. And as you can see, I have a 16 down here. And that 16 is 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3. And if you add this all up, this adds up to 16, right? 6, 3, 6, 10, 13, 16. And that determines the amount of challenge options or modifiers that you can choose from. And each modifier increases your score. The lower ones, the ones that increase the boss's modifiers the most, give the most scoring bonus. And yeah, you can freely choose whichever you want, but if you have all at EX plus 3, you can go for all of the modifiers and increase your score bonus by 300% in total. The best I can do at the moment, if I choose Terra over Arden, which I feel like is probably not the best option, but if I actually go down to level 90, this dramatically changes the outcome. And my score that I did in my last video would be topped if I were to be able to cap damage and defeat the boss in the same process. Just because the point advantage over or on level 99 over say level 90 is rather small. So the damage or the scoring increments, they get smaller the higher you go in the level. But it's still, at the end of the day, I won't be able to compete with a full EX plus 3 team. So yeah. Okay, now there is another thing to keep in mind, and those are the morale influencers. What influences morale gauge? That is the bar at the top here. For example, there are some easy ones. A player unit is getting KO'd. The bar moves to the right to the enemy's favor. But there's also abilities or actions that you can do to increase the morale bar in your favor, such as increasing the enemy with its weakness. The weakness of this particular enemy is light and fire. So if you attack with that, you increase the morale gauge in your favor. Only once per ability cast though. If you inflict status elements, you also increase the morale bar using buffs, and using buffs actually has the greatest effect on this, such as attack, magic, defense, spirit buffs, reductions to attacks, to stats, healing, and elemental resistances all have a huge influence on the morale gauge. Units such as Fina, with all her, which Fina was it? There's a billion Finas. I think it was Lotus Fina. Yeah, I think it's it's Lotus Fina, who has Divine Veil +2. And you can multicast that, and each cast is about 4.8% morale gauge, and you can dual cast this, so it's 9.6% morale gauge in your favor, which is kind of crazy. It's almost as much as a dedicated morale gauge unit, such as NVA Elena or Ling or Louise for that matter. It's crazy. And once you pass certain thresholds and survive long enough, you can use these skills. We've got that rectangle, we've got the circle, we've got the triangle and the pentagon over here. And there are a few abilities that you can use, and I will show you how to use them in the fight in just a moment or a couple of minutes. So those are Resolute Will, it's a 5k barrier for the team for 3 turns. Resurging Will, which restores HP and MP. And there is Resilient Will, which is a 400% defense and spirit bug. It's a bug, but a buff. And Resounding Will for 400% attack and magic. So it's pretty much what Aerith does on the baseline. But yeah, we're getting these buffs too. And you can use them as long as you're above the threshold. So the thresholds here in the middle is 0. The number 2 is 160% if I'm not totally mistaken. And the last one, Resounding Will, is at 180% morale gauge. Okay, we picked our modifiers. We explained the influences. And I do want to point out a bug here. Now, as you can see, I will start with negative 3000 morale gauge. This is a bug. This is not intended. It should not be like that. And there is no way to fix it because apparently the game wants, at the moment at least, wants you to use increments of 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. And using any even or odd number that is not divisible by 3 causes the morale gauge to bug around. Meaning this is a huge disadvantage, and I'm very likely not going to be able to get up to 180 morale gauge with this team, unless I'm super lucky or super greedy. But yeah, this is just showing what the morale battle is all about. So let's dive right in. I do have one orb. I actually waited for this video to make this for this to make the video. So let's dive right in and show off all the stuff. The gear is pretty much exactly the same as I had before, so no real changes to the gearing. I can briefly show off Terra's gear, but she got all the stuff that what's his name? Aradin had on my previous video. And her Brave Shift is... I hate this. A good thing that I looked, actually, because I would have missed her Raven art. Alright, so we're good in here. That should look very familiar. Home mission card. The usual. Okay, so let's dive right in and see how we can fare. And I will explain how to move the morale gauge, how it reacts. Alright, as you can see, so we're getting debuffed, and this yellow bar here that moves to the left and the right determines the morale gauge at the end of the battle. So let me do my actions first. Now, units such as New Vision, Awakened Elena, White Dragon Ling, and Louise, they have, or at least the first two, I don't think Louise actually has any morale influencers. But NVA, Elena, and Ling have abilities that are directly tied to the morale gauge. Blithe Step, for example, is a 650 morale gauge increase, as is Moving Dance, which increases morale gauge by 50. So I'm gonna use both, and I am also gonna use Blaze of the Phoenix here. And now watch the morale gauge. It's going to move to the left. There we go. Now Lena has pretty much the same with Beloved Heroine and Legendary Heroine, but we still have to get rid of all the imperils we have. So Crystal Refragmentation, Protection of the Azure, but this is still going to influence the morale gauge. As you can see, it influenced it a lot. Why did it? Because she also buffed resistances by 100, and that has a huge effect on the morale gauge. Now Noctis, I forgot to Brave Shift him at the beginning, is going to use his unlocks and do a little bit of damage. Terra really does not have much to do on her first turn, so there is a choice. I could, for example, do some damage with her, which would make sense to some degree, but I can also just use Barfarega, for example, if I wanted to. So let's just use Barfarega, see if this changes the morale gauge, but it shouldn't because we already did this. So in this case, dealing damage would have been better. So keep in mind, buffing your elemental resistance twice in a row is not going to work. It's going to work only once. So Louise, for example, even though she just has buffs, we can imperil the boss, which is an action that directly influences the gauge, but the boss is already imperiled, so this is not going to take much effect. But removing and buffing the team does. And you're also going to reduce damage taken, which is also another thing that buffs our gauge. And at the end of it, the Ionic Blaster. So as you can see, not moving, still not moving, and now it moves. A very tiny bit though. Now Nyx has to break the boss, and we still haven't broken the boss, so this is going to move the gauge a little bit. There we go, as you can see, the gauge moved. And let's have Noctis also do his stuff, also moving the gauge in our favor. And at the end of the turn, the gauge moves to the left because we had more gains than losses in this case. And as you can see, there's a countdown going down, and technically speaking, we could soon use these abilities, but not yet. Alright, so let's keep on going. Blithe Step, moving, and Transcendent Performance. And now we're going to move the gauge a lot, as you can see. Elena is also going to move the gauge a lot right now because we're using her Grandest, which is 750. Her usual ability, which is 650, and we're going to do some status buffs, which is also going to influence the stats or the morale gauge positively. As you can see, we move the bar a lot this turn. So let's shift Noctis back. He can do some modifier increases. Let's have Nyx, because the boss dispelled herself. We're gonna have to use his cooldown for breaks. We're going to also imbue himself again and do some damage. Louise is going to imperil the boss. That is going to move the bar again for us. We will also go and buff killers and do stats. That's not going to influence the bar because we did that already. And just do some attacks. And because we haven't buffed ourselves yet, we can actually buff Barfamdega, for example. And there we go, a tiny bit of influence. Now it would be the more clever way to give Terra Calamity Border here. I had this on Nyx because I was planning on doing this with Arden again. But then I thought, might as well do it the other way around. Alright, so we are at 111 already. We're taking some heavy damage now, but it's ultimately going to be fine. And as you can see, the boss doing some actions, doing some damage to us also pushes the bar into the boss's favor. But it's all good still. Alright, so let's go back, let's shift with Ling, and do some more. Alright, so luminous speed, always going to, whoops, wrong one, superluminal speed, always the morale gauge, Azure Might for killers, and yeah, we're almost at the 160 mark. It's going to take us a few more turns though. Okay, now that the boss won't do much damage, we can just do triple Farega, for example. We can do some stat buffs over here. Louise is going to incapacitate. We will also do some this one, modifiers, and this, and we'll have next go for Calamity Border, which is a huge increase in gauge, as we'll see in a second. So let's do that run right now. As you can see, it's amazing how much it does. And let's follow up the last two of them here. Okay, we're at 142. Now we go. So it's turn 4. We're almost ready for the kill. So Blithe Step. I forgot, did I do my modifier increases with Noctis yet? If I didn't, oh well. And let's do, oh, that's wrong. Because we need to actually do a few decent breaks now. Let's break the boss, etc, etc. Elena shifts back, uses speed, and now because we're using Way of the Aurora, we're going to have the good stuff. We're going for some more damaging skills, but we are also already at 160, which is cool, so I can show you a few more things in just a second. Louis shifts, use Firestarter, disarming, and some buffs. I need to check out Noctis. I did his modifier increases. Okay, that's good. So Noctis can shift pretty much. There's nothing else that he really needs to do. We only need to hope that Terra survives this one, because she's the one in the most danger here. But make sure, if you're using Terra, to use Magitech Barrier, because it's a 75% general mitigation. Okay, and next we can once more show off that Calamity Border shouldn't do too much. Yeah, increase the bar way less than before. And let's jump Noctis. And let's hope that everyone survives. But we should. Yep, now we go. Alright, so technically we could use some modifier increase or morale actions. Now, because we didn't reach the final bar yet, it's at 180, I cannot use the other abilities. If I were at 180, I could use Resilient Will, Resounding Will, and increase my stats even more. But because I know that we won't kill this boss on this very turn, I'm gonna use Resolute Will for the barrier, 5k barrier. So let's do this. Let's Brave Shift Ling. Let's Quadcast, Triple Firega, Fire. Louise is going to Quadcast, Disarming twice, Neutralizing and Nano Machine. Nyx Brave Shifts and uses his LB. It's my first time, by the way, using my newest macro for this, so this might not work out. And let's have Elena do her thing. So I'm gonna start off with Terra, not Louise, and send in the rest accordingly. Let's wait, start off, and let's wait for Noctis to drop. Oh, we actually did finish off the boss. That's cool. Did I cap? Almost capped. Almost capped. So if I were able to cap this, I'd have a higher score than before. I do have a higher score even right now. So that is pretty sweet, right? And yeah, that is one of the tricks to increase your score. I just did, for example. I did not expect that. So I'm rank 34 now. I jumped a few ranks. And yeah. So how does the scoring work? Let's check it out. Because the game, it doesn't really tell you much about it. So the high score, as you've seen, this is the team I used. You can check out of friends. Robot, for example, he's full AX plus 3, Riku 2. I've got a few more friends. Sinsar, he's struggling because he doesn't have that many EX levels, sadly. I'm quite sure if he had, he would beat me easily. But, oh well. I do have the EX level upper hand here. But yeah, top ranks, as you can see, there are a lot of rank ones already. And I guess we will have a lot more of those. Maybe some are cheaters, who knows? Who knows? But going by the ranks, I don't think they are. I think all the cheaters learned their lesson in Dark Visions. But anyway, what we can gather from this. The damaging max that you can do for max score is 2.147 billion. That is the old Dark Visions cap. It is the cap for this particular event. And the more modifiers you use, the higher your scoring, obviously, right? And as you've seen, I am only roughly 30,000 off from the maximum. The only thing I would need are EX plus 3 Ling and Louise, and maybe going for level 99 too. But I'm pretty close to it, as you can see. And yeah, number of effective attacks, that is the most easiest one. We need to attack anyway, and if we're using fire and light, well, that does the trick too. Turns for clear, you start getting penalties after turn 10, if I'm not totally mistaken. I haven't done more than 10 turns ever, but I was told if you go to 11, you are losing 1000 points per additional turn. Max chain is that 100 chain. I had more than 100 this time around, which is pretty sweet. And yeah, all of this then gets modified by the EX levels that you have and the difficulties you are using. Okay, so this does the trick. Now, if you want to increase your score even more, and this is what I'll be doing pretty much in the next few days, is trying to see how far can I take it. I am absolutely sure that I will be able to cap damage on level 90. So I will increase the boss level by 1 such that I find the level at which I can just barely cap, and that'll be it. I know for sure I cannot cap the boss if it's at level 99 with this team. The reason is plain simple. As long as we need increments of 3 or a number divisible by 3, I will never get to 180 morale gauge unless I take it to turn 8, which is not ideal, because at level 6 or at turn 6, the boss gains permanent, undispellable 50% defense and spirit. And do you really want to fight against a boss that has an additional 50% defense and spirit in addition to the one that I already chose? I don't think this is a clever idea. And this will only destroy your scoring, so to speak. And if you go to turn 15 even or beyond, on 16, the boss buffs itself by even more. I believe it's 100 or 150%, making this an even worse idea. So the question you have to ask yourself, it totally may be worth going for turn 6 if you can get to 200 morale bar. And the reason for that lies within the morale-based skill sets of these units. So let me just pick the poison here, and let's check out some of the abilities, because there might be some merit to waiting on for turn 6, and one of those is, for example, a nanomachine overload. This ability has a floor of 80x, but it increases damage for every 5% morale above 100. So if you had 105 morale, for example, you do have an 40x modifier on top of it. And if you are at max morale, speaking 200%, you gain 20 additional perks, 5 per 40x, multiplied by 20, that is 800. No. Yes, it is. I was starting to doubt myself. Wait. 40 multiplied by 20. Yeah, that's correct. And no, it is not. I can't math today. I cannot math today. 100 divided by 5. It's still 20. Doesn't matter. We gain definitely enough. Yeah, it's 80. These percentages, they totally confused me right now. So 4,000% multiplied by 20. It's 80,000. Okay, so we got this. And maybe worth it. Now, you've seen me using the morale skill of Louise just now, used at 160 morale gauge. 160 morale gauge, that is, let's divide this, 160 divided by 5 is 32. No, that is wrong. 60 divided by 5, that is 12. We gained 12 multiplied by 40, it's 480x, and that is a 560x total modifier we had. So we were missing on 320 modifier or x modifier on this finishing move, which is a lot of damage that we are losing. It's almost half damage it could have dealt. And I still need to do the math whether it's worth it going for turn 6 or 7 or even 8, doesn't matter in that case, and to get my modifiers up to the maximum score with maximum morale damage. Because Nanomachine Overload isn't the only one, it's also Neutralizing Ionic Blaster, which also has the same damaging floor. It goes up to 730x. And her Disarming Ionic Blaster is at maximum a 580x ability. So there is some merit to waiting to get the maximum amount of modifiers. The same, by the way, applies to our best girl, Elena, because she has her own, oops, that is too far down. She also has her own modifiers. Where are they? Oh, they're here. Blade of Salvation, morale-based damage. She deals up to 615x, depending on your morale gauge. We had 160. So this is also a huge increase. The same applies to Crystal Refraction, which is a 500x. It's good, but Crystal, or this one, the Blade of Salvation, is better. And Piercing is her grandest, which you can only use once, I believe. Up to 2 uses, to battle uses, yeah. But yeah, I would use Blade of Salvation twice, Piercing, Prism again, and we'd have 750x and 2 615x attacks, which would be probably more damage than defeating the boss on turn 5. Maybe I will try it out after this video. I'm not sure. I do have one orb lying around. Maybe I'll cap it with that. Maybe not. I haven't checked, to be honest. But that's the way to handle all of this. And there are a few known bugs. Now, let me just quickly save this team so I can run this again later or in the next couple of days. Now, there is a bug. I hope I can do the bug or show you the bug right now, which happens at some point or may happen. Let's see. It did not happen right now, so that is lucky for me, unlucky for this video. So let's move out of here and move back, and maybe it will reappear. But if it's not, I will just briefly describe what the bug is. So let's pick a few poisons. Okay, so I can't replicate the bug. It's good, but it's too bad for this video. But sometimes, if you're still on a number divisible by 3, you still get minus 3000 morale gauge. If that were to happen to you, you just back out once, return to manage party, and then you remove your Esper and repick the Esper. The reason why you have to do this is because if you start the fight after fixing, quote unquote, the bug, you will start with no Espers equipped. How this happened within the spaghetti code of FFBE is beyond me, but this is a way to fix this. Another known bug is the morale actions. If you have already a buff that is 300 attack, you will not gain the 400 attack buff from this. Same for magic, by the way. So for example, Elena's Way of the Aurora buffs her attack and magic by 300. If you use this, you will not gain Resounding Will. It will just not work. It's stupid, but yeah, it's something you have to keep in mind. It does apply to units up in the air. That's cool. I tested this, by the way. And I hope that they fix this, because I can for sure cap the fight at level 99 with my Arden team if I have 400 attack and magic on my full team. Without it, it's going to be a huge variance roll, but it is entirely possible. So keep that in mind as well, please. Okay, so those are the two known bugs technically. On the one hand, the morale gauge when you're not on a number divisible by 3, and the Esper bug plus the morale actions that are not working properly. So I guess the morale battles or the Clash of Wills technically is feature complete, but it's still riddled with bugs that are super annoying, and I really hope that they fix all of them in the next maintenance so we can properly clear these fights, or this fight. So at the end of this video, I know it's already pretty long at 42 minutes, but I want to give you, because so many people asked me for my opinion, or on my opinion of Clash of Wills, what I think about this. So let's take a step back, take a look at this, and give a verdict of Clash of Worlds. Technically, I do like the idea, but I feel like it's only half done. So I really like the idea of picking my own poison, choosing modifiers to buff the boss that increase my score. But on the other hand, I really dislike that it's just this few abilities or passives that I can choose from. It would have been so much cooler if we had more options, such as reduced healing or reduced effectiveness of, say, fire attacks. It would have been cool, or having a field up at the start of the battle that gives the boss the upper hand for X turns, that replenishes the boss's morale, for example, forcing us to do other things other than just preparing to burst down the boss, because at the end of the day, Clash of Wills is nothing but a glorified raid event for Dark Visions. That is my opinion of it. It's still a cool concept, but I'm super afraid that once we are done with the FanFesta global exclusive units, there's still 3 more to come, that this whole feature of the game will get shafted to some degree, because what we really need are more units that do something to the morale gauge. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that Gumi is too lazy to buff other units to actually have a few morale based skills. Take for example the upcoming Final Fantasy VII units. Do you really believe Gumi is going to give Aerith, Tifa or Sephiroth any morale based skills? I don't see that happening. They are way too lazy to do this. And what I what I am seeing happening to Clash of Wills in the near future is that the feature is going to be just super repetitive. We are always going to use the same units until Gumi releases a new global exclusive unit that is tailored totally towards this feature, just like Louise, for example. Louise is perfect for this, such as Ling 2, by the way, and Elena, but they are less good outside. Now, Ling is super good outside of Clash of Wills, don't get me wrong, I also stated this in my review. But Louise, for example, Louise is good for 2 Dark Visions and then she just falls flat. Louise is mainly a Clash of Wills unit. Now, I don't mind Clash of Wills exclusive units that work best because that is what is going to keep this feature alive, but I just don't see this happening. But for now, I like it. It's an event that is going to take place for 2 weeks every 4 weeks, and it will never clash, pun intended, with Dark Visions. So once this event ends, we will start with Dark Visions, and once Dark Vision ends, we will have Clash of Wills again. And apparently Clash of Wills will start at the first week of each month, just like it did in July. And Dark Visions will start in the middle of the month and end at the end of the month. Always 2 weeks, and if a month has, for some reason, 5 weeks, which can happen, it's fairly unusual, but it is possible. June was such a month, for example, or July is such a month, for example. We have 5 weeks of content this month. And yeah, it may happen. We may have an off week, but technically speaking, we are now in full, quote unquote, 24/7 rank events and ranking fighting style things. Okay. So yeah, all in all, I still like the feature. It opens up new strategies. I like it. I like the strategy part of it, figuring out what to do, what works, what doesn't work. It also, for my liking, it also incentivizes brute forcing. And you guys know I love brute forcing. So my strat is full brute force because I know many people are using a tank. The rank 1 strat, I know Robot DA, he's also on my friends list, you've seen. He used Melia for this, which is probably a super smart tech for this because Melia has spirit-based scaling and she does really well in this too. And she also can take care of all the magic damage. So yeah, I think Melia is a great tech for this. But my Melia is only EX +1, so she has absolutely no place in all of this. But yeah, that sums up this super long video. I almost talked for an hour, which is longer than I expected this to be, but I hope that this guide really helped you understand what Clash of Wills is, how to tackle it, how to tailor things to your gear and to what you can do. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. I will gladly answer all your questions. And yeah, shout out to the viewer of mine who suggested Terra or someone else than Arden. You are the MVP. You got me to get a higher score. So thank you for that. And yeah, we maybe will see each other again tomorrow or in the next couple of days if I find out a cool new strat for this. But if I don't, we'll probably see each other on Thursday again for whatever happens on Thursday. Have a nice rest of the evening, morning, afternoon, rest of the Sunday. Bye bye.